Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, students and professionals, all gather around. We're gathered here. We're gathered here. We are joined here today by Gary Elwood. So Gary is a longtime friend of mine, and he is also a fan favorite here on the Get Listening Summit. In fact, he's been a part of every single summit that we've ever organized, that I've ever hosted. And every year, Gary comes on and shares some really what some might describe as unorthodox or contrarian perspective, or just a unique perspective on things. And one of the reasons why Gary's able to do that is because back in, I think it was 1995, he'll correct me if I was wrong, if I'm wrong, but back in 1995, right. He co-founded a company called ProQuest Technologies. Since that point in time, they have generated over 28 million inbound phone call leads. So not just any leads, phone call leads. And they've served over, I don't remember how many agents they've served by now. I'm going to butcher the numbers, so I'm not going to even say it, but it's tens and tens of thousands of agents at the very least. The point is that Gary and ProQuest Technologies, they're constantly, I would say, almost obsessing over what really works, what's really working today. And what I've seen through the history of ProQuest Technologies, just in the last 7-8 years that I've known Gary and been watching them, is that they are constantly evolving to what's happening in the marketplace, whether it's what they're teaching and coaching, whether it's how they're deploying their technology and their tools, what their marketing strategies are. It's always evolving with what's working in the market. And Gary's one of the first people that ever really taught me to pay attention to the concept of marketing strategies are great, Andre, but you have to look at how the consumer in your target market is behaving and then figure out if your marketing strategy is going to work or not. Because what happens is when a marketing strategy or an idea starts off, right, and it's new, it can work really well. But then when your consumer market, the people that you want to serve, when they start getting hit with that same kind of marketing message a lot, they all start putting up walls to it, right? And they all stop kind of responding to it. Think back to, cold calling back in the day, right? Then direct mail, then internet. All those things used to work really well. Then they kind of got super competitive and stopped working. And so Gary's just been really, really consistent with looking at where's real estate today, how can the real estate agent win today and tomorrow, okay? Based upon watching how consumers are behaving and what's working to bring in leads, because that's all they do day in and day out is bring in leads, especially phone call leads, which are the best leads. So, of course, had to bring Gary back, and he's back. Gary, welcome back to the Get Listing Summit, my man.
Hey, thanks, Andre. Always glad to be here.
I'm really excited for this today. So, just real quickly before we dive into the interview here, for those of you who are listening, you can click on a link below this video, and it's a special offer from Gary and ProQuest Technologies exclusively for folks here on the Get Listing Summit. You can get signed up for a free trial with them. So after you hear the interview, you'll definitely want to go over there and sign up for a free trial. They have an entire suite and library of tactical, ready to deploy and implement strategies to start generating listing leads and buyer lead opportunities, okay, that you can just literally just copy and deploy and go. It's supported by their technology resources. But furthermore, if you end up staying past the free trial and stay as a client with them, you're going to get a lifetime upgrade to their platinum level, to the platinum level of their tool, even though you're going to be signing up at a price point that's lower than what the platinum level costs. And you get a lifetime upgrade to that through the Get Listing Summit. Very generous of them. Click on the link below. If you're listening, go to proquesttechnologies.com/summit. proquesttechnologies.com/summit. And that's where you can get the exclusive access for that really awesome, generous offer just for the Get Listing Summit. Okay. You and I have been talking a little bit over the last couple of months, getting ready for this interview, and I've been building up to this. And you've basically been able to, for 2019, for this summit, and kind of the next couple of years, you've done this, you've really been able to take so many different data points, so many different things that agents could be doing, not doing, how to do it, how not to do it. And you basically distilled it down to 4 specific quadrants. That you find that if an agent can get just really decently good, let's just say decently good at all 4 quadrants, then they ought to see their business trend in the right direction, right?
Yes.
And then also you've also broken it down. You've broken down what are the two biggest points of failure around lead generation right now that you're seeing across the board. Not what was happening 10 years ago, 5 years ago, but right now today, based upon how consumers are behaving today and what agents are not doing. So where I'd like to start is probably with the 4 quadrants.
Okay.
The quadrants. And I'd like you to start sharing on those, and then we'll go from there, and then we'll wrap up with kind of the 2 biggest points of failure around lead generation itself, if that sounds good to you.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Perfect.
It's the things that we've kind of distilled down in, like you mentioned, we've worked with thousands, well, actually over 28,000 clients. Our email list at one point was over 200,000 agents. So we've worked with a lot of agents over the years. And the things that I'm seeing today, when I dive into a one-on-one with an agent, the major areas where that have the greatest impact on an agent's business, first and foremost, is an agent's sales skills. And that I would call that quadrant 1.
Okay.
And the reason I mention it is because it's one of the things that's so radically lacking in today's real estate environment. If you go over the last 10 years of NAR conventions, for example, they've practically weeded the word sales out of every piece of literature that they have. It's consultant, it's service, it's all those things, which I'm a hardcore advocate for being a super servant and caring about your clients. But this whole sort of vilifying the term sales has really undermined something in this industry to a point where agents are put off by the word sales. They don't want to be considered a salesperson. And the reality is they've got to embrace the idea of being a really, really top flight salesperson, because it's the one thing that can help them to leapfrog over bigger agents' lead generation funnels. It's the one thing that if they master and perfect their sales skills, they can take a lead that may be in a big producer's pipeline and actually leapfrog over the top of that agent and get face-to-face with that prospect before the top agent and win the business. Otherwise, what's going to happen is that prospect's going to migrate through the bigger agent's pipeline and ultimately wind up doing business with them. See, the thing we're seeing is that bigger agents are getting bigger and smaller agents are getting smaller. It's the whole rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. It's actually happening at a higher rate of speed in real estate than ever before. And it boils down to a variety of things. But one of them is agents desperately lacking in sales skills, in the training to take a simple phone call from "we're just looking" to setting an appointment, or "we're just gathering information about a listing side lead" to setting the appointment. That's
I want to jump in. You know what's so interesting that you're saying is that, so every year I interview a lot of people, right? And the interesting thing that I never realized I would get from being the summit creator is that I get a glimpse into what are the hot button things every year in real estate. Because what happens is that, with 63 speakers this year, 7 people will talk about this all independently. 8 people will talk about this independent, right? And so I get these little themes that happen every year, and I'm like, that's where the shifts have been in the last year, right?
Yep.
This year, what you're saying is so interesting. I've had over 5 or 6 of my top gun speakers all say, we should really talk about sales skills. Nobody's talking about sales skills. So the fact that you're bringing this up from hardcore lead generation perspective is just absolutely spot on. But the other thing I wanted to mention and kind of ask you actually is you're saying big agents are getting bigger, small agents are getting smaller. And one of the key things that it boils down to is a lot of solo agents and small team agents don't have adequate sales skills. What's interesting is that when I talk to big agents, and I want to ask you if this is one of the causes, when I talk to big agents, almost all of them to a T are investing massive resources into full-time ISA teams who do nothing but sales skill training and dialogue every single day. I interviewed Carrie Schell, 500 deals last year, whatever. They have 4 full-time ISAs with an ISA manager, all stateside, local, in an office, and they role play and script every single day. Right? So of course they're just going to dominate, utterly win.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's part of the reason the bigger agent. There's a couple major reasons why the bigger agents winning more and more and more business all the time, and the smaller agents getting more and more of their business slowly erodes and winds up getting into the big agents funnel and going down that path, simply because the smaller agent is busy, just managing day to day. See, our core focus, or one of the things we're most passionate about, is serving agents really in the 12, 24, 36 unit a year producer, and taking that agent and helping them get to 50, 75, 100 units a year.
Okay.
Because once you get to 75 to 100 units a year, you've got enough velocity to your business that our services aren't as important to that agent. However, it's kind of ironic because the agents in that category of 75 to 100 plus units are the ones who tend to do the best with our service because of these very things we're talking about. Their sales skills are sharper at the point of contact, be it these ISA teams that they're hyper training on, which, those strategies are great for the big agent when you're talking about those types of things. But the average agent out there that we encounter, they don't have the budget for that type of stuff. They don't have the velocity or the momentum for that type of stuff. So the only way to really compete effectively with that is to have better sales skills than those ISAs. Because somewhere in the pipeline, every prospect that comes through virtually every agent's pipeline is already been on the internet for,
They're in somebody else's lead CRM pipeline.
Heck, they could be in 6 or 8 or 10 of them.
Right.
Okay. But the key to winning is the first agent to have a meaningful conversation that builds trust, and they get face-to-face with the prospect instantly. That's the agent who's going to win the business almost every single time, actually, if they've got a high-level skill set. On average, the first agent to have a meaningful conversation in today's environment, 71% of listings go to the first agent to have a meaningful conversation. That's according to the NAR Generational Trends Report, the latest NAR Generational Trends Report. On the buyer side, it's 68%. So the vast majority of business is being conducted with the very first agent to have a meaningful conversation. And a meaningful conversation, well, what is a meaningful conversation? This is sort of this pivotal point that's really, really critical, is meaningful conversations that build trust and lead to a face-to-face meeting. That's the critical lever in every agent's business, be it big agent or small agent. The big agents, their ISAs are having meaningful conversations that build trust and lead to a face-to-face meeting with someone on the team or the rainmaker or the listing agent, whatever. With solo agents who are doing 12, 24, 36 transactions a year, it's their interaction with that prospect. It's that meaningful conversation is the true critical lever in every agent's business. It's just larger agents have figured out how to scale those conversations, how to have more and more and more and more and more of those types of conversations with their ISA teams, with everybody, their buyer agents and all that. Well, the solopreneur, or most agents out there, they don't have that luxury. They don't have that budget. So what they have to do is that point of interaction, you got to have a freaking 12th degree black belt in sales skills. And I'm talking skills that are almost contrarian to what you get in typical sales training in this industry. This industry, again, has dumbed down sales so badly. And then on top of that, the training that they are doing is scripts and dialogues oriented from the 70s and 80s, for goodness sakes. It's, smile, be enthusiastic, it's contagious, and all that garbage that pushes prospects away. I mean, those techniques are being propagated today, and to the harm of agents out there. They don't really even understand. They're like, well, I'm doing what this guy's telling me to do, but I'm not converting any more leads. Well, there's a skill set and a psychology to how to get people in today's environment to open up to you, to connect with you, and that will build trust, because that is the key component, trust.
Got it.
Once you've got a high level of trust.
That's why we want sales skills. Yes, trust.
Absolutely.
I've never heard anybody say it that way.
Well, it's one of those.
Think about that. No, let's pause for a second. Think about. Let's let people marinate on that for a second.
Okay.
I think of like me listening and through the audience's ears. I want to make sure we pump the brakes just for a second here.
Sure.
Because you move so fast, you have so much content to share. Most people see sales as, I think, most people see sales as what, Gary? money making effort, right? Get money. Sales means get money, right? Right? That's what we think of as sales skills, get money.
Yeah.
That's why when we walk into a Nordstrom, sales clerk, they just want me to spend money. They want my wallet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fair or unfair. I think that's what a lot of us feel. I've never heard anybody say, no, sales is to build trust.
It's absolutely,
that's an odd one. It's actually like, it's almost like, no, that's not right. And you move on. Right. But actually that is right, if you're doing it with the right intention.
Yep.
Anyway, I just wanted to highlight that for people, that I just heard you say that sales is to build trust. Effective sales is building trust.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's far more than just rapport. It used to be years ago, if you established a good level of rapport with the prospect over the phone, you had a good shot of getting face to face with them. And that's where the trust level would accelerate dramatically. Well, today, prospects are so sales resistant. They've been they're hit with 1,000 messages every day through their eyes and their ears on the internet and everywhere else, that they've got these massive walls. And the key to overcoming that is developing the skill set that breaks down that barrier, that's not, quote, salesy, that's not scripts and dialogue driven necessarily. I think scripts and dialogues are okay as a framework to sort of open up a conversation and be able to start to get things rolling. But it's a much deeper level skill set of how you can ask the appropriate questions to get the prospect to lean into you and open up. And once they start to open up, the key is getting face-to-face as fast as humanly possible. See, I'll bet most of the listeners in your audience right now, if they can get face-to-face with a prospect, eyeball to eyeball, they're going to win that business probably the vast majority of the time.
I'd say most agents say that, yeah. Like for listing appointments, just get me in the house. I'll win at least 75% or 80% of the time.
Exactly. And that's the case for actually most of the agents in your office. I find that with even the 12, 24, 36 unit producers, if they get face-to-face with a prospect, it's game over. They're good to go. The key is actually getting there, and that's that initial opening conversation. It's really developing the skills to have a meaningful conversation that builds trust. That's the true essence of sales skills. Once you develop that, you can literally leapfrog over the big agent's lead generation funnel. Because again, these prospects are in multiple agent sales funnels. And when you interact with them, if you get them on the phone, which is our driving focus, is getting people to a live phone conversation so that they can get face-to-face as fast as humanly possible. Because that's where lead generation breaks down in general out there, is you're generating all this data, names, email addresses, phone numbers, all that. But how many of them actually get to a 5 to 7 minute conversation over the phone that leads to a face-to-face meeting? That's the grand failing of all the lead gen funnels out there, is this pivotal point of they don't get to the live conversation. Now, once to the live conversation, the big key again is this quadrant one, the sales skills, getting those to a high level where you can get face-to-face as fast as humanly possible. Now, we got a lot of ground to cover here, so I'm going to transition to we could actually take each quadrant and break it out for an hour. But it's one of those things where, since we're going kind of high level here, let's jump to quadrant two. The second quadrant is repeat and referral marketing.
Okay.
See, agents are so focused out there on the internet, on Facebook, on Instagram, on whatever, these lead generation channels. They're focusing 90% of their energy in an external way on those things, when the reality of today's business right now, according to the latest NAR Generational Trends Report, I just love digging into their annual report every year. This is the one that surveys buyers and sellers, where they found their agent. Because that's the key question. Where do buyers and sellers find their agent? Okay.
Yeah, because you would then want to be there.
Yes. Well, actually, as of right now, in today's environment, 68% of listings are from repeat and referral sources.
Okay.
68%. That's almost 7 out of 10. Yet the 90% of agents' effort is focused on the 3 out of 10 that's out there somewhere. They need to make sure that they shore up and create a moat around their repeat and referral, their sphere of influence. They need to dig a deep moat filled with alligators around their repeat and referral sources. And they need to be consistent on a monthly basis. They've got to be consistent as the sunrise with a highly effective repeat and referral marketing systems. Because again, on the listing side, it's almost 7 out of 10 listings are repeat and referral sources of business. Yet agents are so Facebook focused. And so here's the ironic part about that. You know, I love a lot of the strategies, the social media strategies agents are doing out there because I'm a marketing geek. I love marketing. Okay. Right. Mm-hmm. And I love the new frontier and the new opportunity. I just dig it. I mean, that's just me.
Right.
But when you look at the actual numbers, according to the latest NAR Generational Trends report on listing side business, where agents found their listing agent, social media doesn't even break 1 percentile. It's still an asterisk. It doesn't even break 1% on the grand total of listings out there. So, which points to something. It's agents are chasing that like it's the holy grail. And again, I love that stuff. And yeah, I think there's some great stuff out there. I think there's some hugely big implications to social media, but it has to do with social proof and branding is where that actually plays in. And I'll talk about that in a second because that's my next quadrant is effective branding. And my definition of that's entirely different than anything else out there. It's not about glitz and glam and that sort of thing. But just to summarize on repeat referral marketing again, it's 70% of the activity on the listing side. It's 60% on the buyer side. Okay. So granted, there's a little bit more buyer activity.
From referrals. So
yes,
approximately 60% of repeat, 60% of buyers and approximately 70% of sellers come from repeat and referral sources.
Right. So the focus of agents has to shift in high gear towards.
Well, hold on. Let me pause for a second. The stat also is that I think that 80% of people, I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of 80% say you work with the same agent again, or 90%, but only 12% do.
Yeah, this points to agents chasing in the wrong direction.
Yeah, so that's the repeat. So if only 12% of people work with the same agent and 70% of listings approximately come from repeat and referral, then basically the overwhelming majority of that is from referral.
Yep.
Right? Because if 12% only repeat, 12% is still way more than 1% internet conversion rate. Right?
Yeah.
So that's still 12x internet leads. But majority then come from referral.
Yeah, and on the social media side, on the buyer side, the buyers have finally cracked 1% on the buyer side. So for the social media stuff, just to clarify, for everybody who's chasing hard on the social media, it's an asterisk, less than 1% on the seller side, and it's now cracked 1% on the buyer side. Just those who want to go out of the again, I'm not opposed to those strategies. Actually, I'm a fan of a lot of them. But again, it's the big agents who can afford to break into that new frontier because they've got budget. They can afford to break even on leads. Actually, they don't even have to make a profit on their leads to be profitable overall. And I can kind of explain that in a minute because it's really, let's transition to quadrant 3, which I've labeled it effective branding. But my definition is entirely different. Effective branding has to do with a high level quality of social proof in the marketplace that you're a good agent and you're who you say you are. See, what I mean by that is when someone gets into an agent's pipeline in any fashion, they put a name and an email into an opt-in form or whatever, wherever they're coming into contact with an agent out there, one of the very first things they do, and this is especially relevant right after you've had a conversation with the prospect. I've been telling agents this for years now, well, several years, 5, 6, 7 years now. When you have a meaningful conversation with someone, it's absolutely critical that you have some very basic fundamental things in place. Otherwise, the trust you've developed in that phone call can erode really, really quickly. Because you have to look at how prospects behave. When they have a conversation with someone and they think, gee, Andre's a pretty nice guy. He seems like he might be a good agent to consider. When they hang up the phone, what's the first thing they do? What's their default?
Go Google. Search you. Yeah.
Yep.
Search Google, search Facebook maybe too.
Yeah,
See what pictures are up there. See what you're all about if it pops up.
It's now both for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
LinkedIn,
Google and Facebook are the.
too. LinkedIn, I don't know. I think Facebook first. Google first. I mean, Facebook second.
Yeah, I think they're running close. They're running close, even up. But the key one's Google because it actually lists Facebook and LinkedIn and all those others. So naturally, they're going to go to Google, type in your name. And the critically important thing is that first page should be all you. If it's not all you, if the first 5 or 6 or 7 links aren't you, you got a problem potentially. Because, and I get this all the time. I get agents who say, they're generating leads with our system. They may be getting 40, 50 leads a month. They're having conversations and they're saying, I'm having good conversations, but I'm kind of challenged with getting to the face-to-face meet. And I go, okay, well, let me do a little research and we'll do a one-on-one. And I Google their name and it's like, holy crap, I can't even find them. They're like a secret agent. Okay, so it's like in real estate, you can't be a secret agent. Okay, it just doesn't work very good. However, I will give you a tip for those agents who don't have much social proof yet. First off, you need to go to work on setting up several basic things. First is you don't need a really fancy website, just a basic website that's, a decent quality one, $50 to $100 a month typically for a decent website of some kind. That's gonna rank you in that front page on Google when they search your name specifically. Okay. The other's a well-populated LinkedIn profile with at least a dozen recommendations. If you don't have a dozen recommendations, you're not even trying. Okay. The other thing is your Zillow profile, your Realtor.com profile, all those things that are naturally going to come up there right away. You better make sure you've got a good number of 5-star reviews on Zillow and or other social proof mechanisms that give the 5-star reviews, because that's playing into people's decision-making processes more and more all the time. Realtor.com, same thing. You can't have that stuff be incomplete. Otherwise, the conversation you just had with somebody that made them feel good about you, when they Google it and they go, well, what the hell? He doesn't even have his picture on Realtor.com. That's stupid. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't link up with, I trust this guy. Now it's like, I trust him sort of. He's personally, but professionally. See, there's 2 flavors to trust. There's the personal side and then there's the professional side. Okay. See, if we trust someone personally, we're one step down the path. But if they look you up on Google and can't find you and you're playing secret agent, their professional trust in you is undermined. And so you got to have both levels. You got to have trust in the personal side and trust in the professional side. Because let's say the professional side is really solid and good, but personally your sales skills are maybe not the greatest and you're not connecting and establishing trust. They may trust you professionally, but if there's something that just in the back of their head makes them kind of question you personally, you got that weird feeling about someone, you're not going to do business. You're just not going to do business with them. You're going to choose someone else.
You don't want your prospect or client to have a question mark.
No. So it's one of those are the 2 flavors of trust that are very important. It's you got to trust them personally, and then you've got to trust them professionally. Well, the professional element of it, when you've had a conversation, and this is again, my quadrant 3 is effective branding. And branding today is not the glitz and glam of a beautiful website. Everybody can have that with the simplest of things, right? Because we live in a digital society that's got gorgeous pictures and everybody takes the glamour shots and looks wonderful and all that baloney, right? And everybody's pounding their chest. I'm number one, I'm the biggest, I'm the best, all that crap. I'm talking about social proof, be it on Facebook, Google. Well, first is Google. Google. Everyone on this call should at least once every 3 months, at a minimum, Google their name and look at the first 2 pages of Google listings and make sure everything's firing. Because here's a great torpedo in your lead generation boat. You get somebody who's kind of haywire into your lead pipeline, you have a conversation with them, and they get angry with you and hang up, and then they go flaming you online. Okay? And then it comes up in your Google stuff right on front page 1. Well, guess what? Every time you hang up with someone you've had a good conversation with and they see, warning, don't do business with this agent, guess what? That lead is toast. It's gone. So everyone should be, at least once every 3 months, should Google their name, make sure the social proof elements are up to par. That's one of the reasons I'm a total advocate for you have to be on Facebook and utilizing it. Am I saying you have to lead generate like crazy on Facebook? No, not necessarily. Unless you've got some really good strategies, yes, that's fine. Be careful about how you're spending your money because, again, social media is producing an asterisk on the listing side and 1% on the buyer side. So, but use it as a social proof tool. See, when they click on your page on Facebook, it should reinforce the conversation that they just had with you. It's, gee, Andre seems like a nice guy. They click on your Facebook page. Everything says Andre's a nice guy. Look at those 5-star reviews. Look at those pictures. Oh, he's petting his dog. Isn't that wonderful? So now you've got the social proof or the branding side of it nailed. You're building trust. Everything's about building trust. Sales skills are about building trust. Quality repeat and referral marketing, it's about building trust with your sphere so nobody else can touch them because that's critical. See, what's happening with the small